At my brother's wedding, my cheating ex crashed uninvited and told everyone. She tried to seduce me and convince me to leave my girlfriend. I grabbed the security footage and prepared to destroy his life systematically. Let me back up to explain how I ended up in this position of power over someone who thought he could manipulate an entire wedding reception with his lies. I'm Emma, 28, a senior cybersecurity consultant earning $145,000 annually for a Fortune 500 company. My specialty is digital forensics and data recovery, which means I'm exceptionally good at finding evidence people think they've hidden. More importantly, I maintain detailed documentation of everything in my personal life because my job has taught me that people lie constantly and the truth always lives in the data. 5 months ago, I was dating Ryan, a 30-year-old marketing coordinator making about $52,000, who always seemed impressed by my technical skills and financial independence. He'd constantly ask me to explain my work processes, which I found endearing at the time. I thought he was genuinely interested in my career. Looking back, I realize he was gathering intelligence on how I operated professionally so he could better deceive me personally. Ryan told me extensively about his ex-girlfriend, Vanessa, painting himself as the victim of her cheating. He claimed she'd betrayed him with a coworker, leaving him traumatized and unable to trust easily. He said they maintained a cordial relationship through mutual friends, but never spent time alone together. This boundary, he assured me, was sacred to him after what she'd put him through. I respected this completely and appreciated his apparent honesty about his past. What Ryan didn't know was that I'd already run a basic background check on him through my professional resources, standard practice for me when dating someone new. I knew about his employment history, his credit score, his rental history, and his social media presence going back 3 years. I also knew Vanessa's full name, her employer, and her recent relationship status. At that point, everything checked out with his story. 2 months into our relationship, when Ryan introduced me to his friend group, including Vanessa, I was already prepared. I'd researched everyone we'd be meeting, their connections to each other, their social media activity patterns, and their professional backgrounds. This wasn't paranoia, it was simply how my analytical mind works. Information is power, and incomplete information leads to poor decision-making. Vanessa seemed pleasant enough during that first meeting, maintaining appropriate distance while being cordial. However, my trained eye noticed several inconsistencies. Her body language around Ryan showed familiarity beyond what his cordial but distant description suggested. She knew his coffee order, referenced inside jokes, and displayed a comfort level that indicated recent, regular contact. I filed these observations away but didn't act on them immediately. 3 weeks ago, Ryan and I made plans for a quiet evening at my apartment. We confirmed these plans multiple times throughout the week via text messages, which I screenshot and save automatically through my phone's security protocols. Ryan was late with no communication. His phone went straight to voicemail, which immediately raised red flags for me. In my professional experience, phones don't just die conveniently, they get turned off intentionally. Instead of panicking like most people would, I began systematic information gathering. First, I checked Ryan's location history through Find My Friends, which we'd set up weeks earlier for safety reasons. His last known location was downtown then the signal disappeared. This confirmed intentional phone deactivation. Second, I monitored his social media activity across all platforms through automated tracking tools I use for work. No activity since, which was unusual for someone who typically posted every few hours. Then I expanded my surveillance to his social circle. Using social media monitoring software I have access to through my company, I tracked posts from everyone in his friend group that evening. Vanessa posted a photo from Taverna, Ryan's favorite restaurant, with the caption, "Dinner and movie night with Ryan, just like old times." In the background, slightly blurred but clearly identifiable through facial recognition software I ran the image through, was Ryan himself. The timestamp metadata from Vanessa's photo showed it was taken posted at. This gave me a complete timeline of Ryan's deception. He'd been with Vanessa since at least, directly violating his claimed boundary about never spending time alone with her, while deliberately keeping me waiting without communication. I screenshot everything, downloaded the original image files, and began building a comprehensive evidence folder. My professional training had taught me that people who lie about one thing typically lie about multiple things, and that deception usually follows predictable patterns. I suspected this wasn't an isolated incident. The next morning, Ryan sent his predictable explanation: fallen asleep watching Better Call Saul, dead phone, completely forgot our plans, but I'd already spent 3 hours the night before conducting a thorough digital investigation. Using my professional tools, I'd accessed public Wi-Fi logs from Vanessa's apartment building, cross-referenced with Ryan's device signatures from when he'd connected to my network. His phone had been active on her Wi-Fi from until when Ryan suggested meeting at a coffee shop to discuss what happened. I agreed immediately. I arrived with a tablet containing a complete digital forensics report I'd compiled overnight. Screenshots, metadata analysis, timeline reconstruction, Wi-Fi logs, and social media activity correlation. 43 pieces of evidence proving he'd lied about every aspect of his story. I didn't show him any of this during our conversation. Instead, I let him dig his hole deeper with increasingly elaborate lies. When I mentioned Vanessa's Instagram post, he claimed it was a coincidence. They'd randomly run into each other at the restaurant. When I pointed out the caption mentioned movie night, he changed his story to a last-minute decision to watch something together. Each lie was automatically contradicted by evidence I'd already gathered. When I finally asked directly if anything physical had happened between them, Ryan's micro-expressions told me everything I needed to know. After 20 minutes of careful questioning, he admitted they'd slept together. He tried to frame it as an unplanned mistake, but I already knew from his location data that he'd been at her apartment for over 5 hours. I stood up, gathered my things, and walked out without saying a word. Ryan followed me to the parking lot, pleading and making increasingly desperate promises. I let him talk while discreetly recording everything on my phone's voice memo app. His admissions of infidelity, his begging for forgiveness, and his detailed explanations of what had happened with Vanessa were all being documented for potential future use. That evening, I blocked Ryan's number and removed him from all my social media accounts. But I didn't delete the extensive evidence folder I'd compiled. In my line of work, you never know when information might become valuable. I also didn't delete the tracking software I'd installed on his devices during our relationship, when he'd asked me to help optimize his phone's security. He'd given me administrative access, and I'd never revoked it. My brother's wedding was scheduled for the following Saturday. I was a bridesmaid and had been looking forward to celebrating his happiness despite my recent relationship drama. I'd informed my family that Ryan and I had broken up but kept the details private. I wanted the focus to remain on my brother and his new wife, not on my personal problems. The wedding ceremony was beautiful, and I managed to put my relationship troubles aside while fulfilling my bridesmaid duties. During the reception, I was helping coordinate between the catering staff and the wedding planner when my phone buzzed with a location alert. Ryan's device had just entered the wedding venue's Wi-Fi network. I immediately checked the venue's security system, which I'd helped design 2 months earlier when my brother was concerned about wedding crashers. As the cybersecurity consultant who'd set up their digital monitoring system, I had administrative access to all cameras and network logs. Within 30 seconds, I'd located Ryan on the security feed. He was dressed in a full suit, walking confidently through the main entrance as if he belonged there. This was the moment I realized Ryan wasn't just a cheater. He was potentially dangerous. Crashing someone's wedding uninvited, especially after being told the relationship was over, indicated serious boundary issues and possible escalating behavior. I immediately began recording everything through the security system while alerting my brother's friend, Devin, who was handling security coordination for the event. Ryan found me in a quiet hallway away from the main reception area. When I asked what he was doing there, he said he needed to talk. and couldn't accept that things were over between us. I told him firmly to leave immediately, or security would escort him out. Instead of complying, he grabbed my arm tightly enough to leave marks and tried to force a kiss on me. Devin arrived within 60 seconds, having received my security alert. He calmly but firmly removed Ryan's hands from my arms and positioned himself between us. Ryan then made the critical mistake that would ultimately destroy his credibility completely. In front of Devin and within range of the security system's audio recording, he began loudly claiming that I had been the one pursuing him, that I was trying to seduce him into leaving Vanessa, and that I was stalking him since our breakup. This was a spectacular miscalculation on Ryan's part. He was making these accusations in a venue where every word was being recorded by a security system I'd personally installed, in front of witnesses who knew me professionally, while trespassing at an event he hadn't been invited to. From a strategic standpoint, he couldn't have chosen a worse time or place for his lies. Devin called security and waited with Ryan until they escorted him from the premises. The entire interaction was captured in high-definition video, with clear audio from multiple camera angles. I now had documentary evidence of him trespassing, physically grabbing me without consent, making false accusations, and demonstrating the unstable behavior I'd suspected was escalating. But Ryan's most devastating mistake was claiming publicly that I was stalking him and spreading lies about his relationship with Vanessa. Within hours of the wedding, he was telling everyone in his friend group that I'd made up the cheating story out of jealousy, that I'd pursued him at the wedding, and that I was harassing him with false accusations. What Ryan didn't understand was that I documented everything from our relationship with forensic-level precision. Every lie he was now telling his friends was contradicted by evidence I'd systematically gathered. More importantly, his decision to publicly attack my credibility meant I was now justified in publicly defending it with proof. I spent Sunday morning creating a comprehensive digital presentation containing 47 pieces of evidence proving Ryan's infidelity, deception, and recent harassment. Screenshots of his lies, metadata proving when and where photos were taken, Wi-Fi logs showing his location history, voice recordings of his admissions, and security footage from the wedding showing his actual behavior versus his claimed version of events. Monday afternoon, I sent this presentation to the 3 most influential people in Ryan's friend group, along with a calm, professional explanation of why I was sharing this information. I wasn't seeking sympathy or trying to damage Ryan's reputation for revenge. I was simply correcting the false narrative he'd spread about me, using independently verifiable evidence. The response was immediate and devastating for Ryan. Within 24 hours, multiple friends had apologized for believing his version without question. Several people forwarded me additional evidence they'd been holding back. Photos of Ryan and Vanessa together during our relationship that contradicted his claimed boundaries, messages where he'd lied about his whereabouts to other friends, and confirmation that his pattern of cheating and deception went back years. Marcus, the friend who'd originally commented on Vanessa's Instagram post, revealed that he'd seen Ryan and Vanessa together regularly throughout our relationship, but had assumed I knew and was okay with it. He'd been shocked when Vanessa posted about their dinner date because he thought Ryan was supposed to be with me that night. His comment wasn't support for their relationship. It was surprise at Vanessa's public display of behavior he knew was deceptive. 2 weeks later, I received multiple calls from an unknown number. When I finally answered, it was Vanessa. She'd heard about Ryan's wedding crash and wanted to know if his version of events was true. When I explained what actually happened, she revealed that Ryan had told her they were officially back together the day after our breakup, claiming I'd been pursuing him and trying to convince him to leave her. This conversation was enlightening because it revealed the full scope of Ryan's manipulation. He wasn't just lying to me about Vanessa or lying to his friends about me. He was lying to Vanessa about the timeline of our relationship and my behavior afterward. He'd created multiple contradictory narratives and was maintaining them simultaneously with different audiences. Vanessa also confirmed what I'd suspected about Ryan's pattern of infidelity. He'd cheated on her multiple times during their 3-year relationship, but had managed to convince their friend group that she was the unfaithful one when they broke up. His supposed trauma from being cheated on was entirely fabricated. In reality, he was a serial cheater who consistently blamed his partners for his own behavior. At this point, I had comprehensive evidence proving that Ryan was not just a cheater, but a systematic liar who manipulated entire social groups to protect his reputation while destroying his partners. More concerning, his escalation to wedding crashing and physical grabbing suggested his behavior was becoming increasingly unstable and potentially dangerous. I contacted my company's legal department to discuss my options regarding Ryan's harassment and defamation. As a senior employee with an excellent reputation, I had access to high-quality legal advice at no cost. The corporate attorney reviewed my evidence folder and immediately recommended filing for a restraining order, noting that Ryan's behavior showed clear signs of escalation and that his lies about me could constitute defamation if they damaged my professional reputation. The restraining order process was straightforward because I documented everything systematically. Ryan's wedding crash, captured on security video I'd personally installed, provided clear evidence of harassment and trespassing. His physical grabbing of my arm, witnessed and recorded, demonstrated escalating aggressive behavior. His public lies about me pursuing and stalking him, contradicted by dozens of pieces of digital evidence, showed a pattern of defamation designed to damage my reputation. When Ryan appeared at the restraining order hearing with his own attorney, he made another spectacular miscalculation. He contested the order, claiming I was exaggerating everything out of spite and that he'd never done anything threatening. This forced me to present my complete evidence folder in open court, where it became part of the public record. The judge reviewed 47 pieces of evidence, including security footage, digital forensics reports, witness statements, and recorded admissions of infidelity and deception. Ryan's attorney visibly winced as the scope of the documentation became clear. His client had walked into court claiming innocence while facing a cybersecurity professional who'd systematically documented every interaction they'd ever had. The judge granted a 1-year restraining order and noted for the record that Ryan's pattern of deception and escalation was concerning. The court filing became public record, which meant anyone who searched Ryan's name would find detailed documentation of his harassment and dishonesty. This had immediate consequences for his professional reputation in marketing, where trust and credibility are essential. Within 2 weeks of the restraining order being granted, Ryan had lost his marketing coordinator position. His employer, a mid-sized firm that handled reputation management for local businesses, couldn't retain someone whose own behavior had become a public relations liability. His lies about me had backfired spectacularly, creating documented evidence of his dishonesty that potential employers could easily discover through background checks. Vanessa moved to another city shortly afterward, finally escaping Ryan's manipulation entirely. Before leaving, she provided me with additional evidence of Ryan's deceptive behavior that I added to my documentation folder. She also warned me that Ryan had been trying to get my new address and information about my current life, which I reported as violations of the restraining order. 6 months later, Ryan sent a formal written apology through his attorney, requesting that I consider lifting the restraining order. The letter claimed he'd been in therapy, recognized his inappropriate behavior, and wanted to make amends. I discussed this with my legal counsel and decided the restraining order should remain in place for the full year. His pattern of escalating behavior and systematic deception suggested that any contact would likely result in renewed harassment. Today, Ryan works in a lower-paying position at a smaller company, has lost most of his friend group due to the documented evidence of his deceptive behavior, and faces ongoing professional consequences from the public court record of his harassment and defamation. His attempt to destroy my reputation through lies ended up systematically destroying his own credibility with independently verifiable proof. Meanwhile, I've been promoted to Senior Director of Cybersecurity, earning $165,000 annually, and have started dating Devin, the groomsman who helped me at the wedding. Our relationship is built on complete honesty and mutual respect, qualities I now value more than ever. Devin knows everything that happened with Ryan and understands my systematic approach to documentation and verification. My brother and his wife frequently thank me for handling the wedding situation so professionally, keeping the focus on their celebration while protecting everyone's safety. The security system I designed for their wedding has since been implemented at 3 other venues, earning my company a significant additional revenue stream. The most satisfying aspect of this entire situation is that I never had to lie, exaggerate, or manipulate anyone to achieve justice. I simply documented the truth systematically and presented it professionally when Ryan's lies made correction necessary. His downfall was entirely self-inflicted through his own dishonest choices and spectacular miscalculations about who he was trying to deceive.